When you think of supercar manufacturers, your mind probably wanders to the streets of Maranello, Italy, or perhaps the precision engineering halls of Stuttgart, Germany. Maybe you picture the boutique workshops scattered across the English countryside. But Russia? That's not typically a country that enters the conversation when discussing high-performance exotic automobiles. The Marussia B2, a machine that represented the pinnacle of Russian automotive ambition, a car that dared to compete on the world stage, and ultimately, a cautionary tale about how quickly dreams can unravel in the unforgiving world of supercar manufacturing. To understand the B2, we first need to understand the company behind it. Marussia Motors was founded in 2007 by Nikolai Fomenko, a former Russian pop star turned racing driver and television personality, along with businessman Efim Ostrovsky. The name Marussia is actually a diminutive form of the Russian name Maria, giving the brand an inherently Russian identity from the very start. Fomenko wasn't just a celebrity with money to burn. He was a genuine motorsport enthusiast who had competed in various racing series and harbored a deep passion for high-performance automobiles. His vision was remarkably ambitious: to create a Russian supercar brand that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the established European marques. This wasn't about building a curiosity or a novelty. This was about creating a legitimate competitor in one of the most exclusive and demanding segments of the automotive industry. The company's first offering, the B1, debuted in 2008 and served as a proof of concept. It demonstrated that Marussia was serious about their intentions. But it was the B2, unveiled at the Frankfurt Motor Show in 2009, that truly represented the company's vision fully realized. The Marussia B2 was penned by a team that understood supercars needed to make a visual statement before they ever turned a wheel. The design language was aggressive, angular, and unmistakably modern. Where the B1 had been somewhat experimental in its appearance, the B2 refined those ideas into a cohesive and striking package. The front end featured sharp LED headlights that gave the car an almost predatory expression. The low-slung nose fed air into carefully sculpted intakes, while the bodywork flowed rearward in a series of complex curves and hard creases. The side profile revealed a classic mid-engine supercar silhouette, with the cabin pushed forward and the rear haunches swelling to accommodate the powertrain. Perhaps most distinctive were the rear three-quarter views, where the flying buttresses and integrated rear wing created a visual drama that rivaled anything coming from Italy or Germany. The B2 looked expensive, exotic, and importantly, it looked like nothing else on the road. In a segment where design is paramount, Marussia had delivered something genuinely unique. The construction utilized a carbon fiber monocoque chassis, demonstrating that the company wasn't cutting corners on the fundamental architecture. Carbon fiber was and remains the material of choice for serious supercar manufacturers, and its inclusion here signaled Marussia's commitment to legitimate performance credentials. Under that dramatic rear bodywork, Marussia offered buyers a choice of powertrains, an unusual approach for such a small manufacturer. The base engine was a turbocharged 2.8-liter V6 producing around 360 horsepower. This was designed to offer a more accessible entry point into Marussia ownership while still delivering genuine supercar performance. However, the headline-grabbing option was a 3.5-liter V6 that, in its most potent turbocharged configuration, could produce up to 420 horsepower. For those seeking even more power, a naturally aspirated Cosworth-derived V6 was reportedly available, pushing output beyond 500 horsepower in some configurations. Power was sent to the rear wheels through a 6-speed sequential gearbox, allowing for rapid shifts and a connected driving experience. The combination of carbon fiber construction and relatively compact powertrains meant the B2 tipped the scales at approximately 1,100 kilograms, or roughly 2,425 pounds. That power-to-weight ratio put it firmly in competitive territory with established supercar rivals. The numbers backed up the visual drama. Marussia claimed the B2 could accelerate from 0 to 100 km per hour in approximately 3.8 seconds in its most powerful configuration. Top speed was quoted at over 250 km per hour, with some variants allegedly capable of reaching nearly 300 km per hour. These weren't numbers designed to embarrass the car when compared to a Ferrari 458 or a McLaren MP4-12C, which were its contemporaries. They represented genuine supercar performance, achieved by a company with a fraction of the resources and none of the heritage of the established players. The suspension was a fully independent setup with double wishbones at both ends, tuned for the kind of precise handling that supercar buyers demand. Massive carbon ceramic brakes were available to haul the B2 down from its considerable velocities, and the steering was designed to provide the kind of feedback and response that enthusiast drivers crave. Stepping inside the B2 revealed an interior that matched the exterior's ambition. The cockpit was driver-focused, with a wraparound dashboard that placed all essential controls within easy reach. Carbon fiber trim pieces adorned the cabin, continuing the lightweight theme established by the chassis construction. The seats were deeply bolstered racing-style units, designed to hold occupants firmly in place during spirited driving while still providing reasonable comfort for longer journeys. The instrument cluster was a modern digital display, providing the driver with all necessary information in a clear and contemporary format. Perhaps most surprisingly for such a low-volume manufacturer, Marussia offered a reasonable level of customization. Buyers could specify their B2 with various leather colors, trim options, and exterior paint schemes, allowing for a degree of personalization typically associated with more established brands. Marussia's ambitions extended beyond road cars. In 2010, the company became involved in Formula One, initially as a sponsor and later as a full constructor. The Marussia F1 team, which evolved from the Virgin Racing outfit, competed in the World Championship from 2012 onwards. This Formula One involvement was intended to elevate the brand's profile and provide technological synergies that could benefit the road car program. Having your company name on the Formula One grid alongside Ferrari, McLaren, and Mercedes was a powerful statement of intent. The B2 actually made appearances at Formula One events, serving as a course car and appearing in the paddock, where it could be seen by the wealthy enthusiasts who attend such events. This was clever marketing for a young brand seeking to establish itself among the elite. Despite the promising specifications and genuine ambition, the reality of Marussia's production was far more modest than the company's dreams. The B2 was built in extremely limited numbers, with total production across the company's entire history believed to be fewer than a few dozen units for all models combined. Each car was essentially hand-built, a necessity given the lack of large-scale manufacturing facilities. This artisanal approach had its advantages in terms of exclusivity but made it nearly impossible to achieve the economies of scale necessary for long-term viability. The price point was set at approximately €100,000 to €150,000 depending on specification, positioning the B2 as an alternative to established supercars rather than a direct competitor. For buyers willing to take a chance on an unknown quantity, it represented a genuinely exotic ownership proposition. Unfortunately, the Marussia story does not have a happy ending. The company faced mounting financial difficulties throughout its existence. The global financial crisis of 2008 had created a challenging environment for luxury goods manufacturers, and the supercar market was particularly affected. The Formula One operation, while prestigious, was enormously expensive. Racing at the highest level requires hundreds of millions in investment, and without major manufacturer backing or title sponsorship, the financial burden became unsustainable. In 2014, Marussia Motors ceased operations. The F1 team struggled on briefly before also collapsing. The factories fell silent, the dreams of a Russian supercar dynasty faded, and the few B2s that had been produced became instant collector's items, orphan machines from a company that no longer existed. Today, the Marussia B2 occupies a curious position in automotive history. It represents both an achievement and a failure, a demonstration of what was possible and a reminder of how difficult the supercar business truly is. The surviving examples have become sought after by collectors who appreciate their rarity and their story. Finding parts and service expertise remains challenging, which has kept some cars off the road. But for those willing to embrace the complications of ownership, the B2 offers something that money typically cannot buy: genuine exclusivity. In an era where even limited edition Ferraris are produced in the hundreds, Owning one of perhaps 20 or 30 B2s ever made represents a level of rarity that most supercar owners can only dream of. The Marussia B2 deserves to be remembered not as a failure, but as a noble attempt to do something extraordinarily difficult. Creating a supercar company from scratch, in a country with no tradition of such vehicles, against competition with decades of experience and billions in resources, was always going to be an uphill battle. That Marussia managed to produce a car as accomplished as the B2, a machine that looked the part, delivered genuine performance, and represented a coherent vision, is genuinely impressive. The fact that they also competed in Formula One, even if at the back of the grid, demonstrates an ambition that few automotive startups have ever matched. The supercar industry is littered with the wreckage of companies that dared to dream. From the ashes of these attempts, we can find genuine innovation and genuine passion. The Marussia B2 stands as a testament to what a small group of determined individuals can achieve when they refuse to accept that geography should determine destiny. For those lucky enough to see one in person, the B2 remains a striking machine, a reminder that supercars can come from unexpected places, and that sometimes the story behind a car is just as compelling as the car itself. Russia may never have established itself as a supercar nation, but for a brief moment, the Marussia B2 suggested that perhaps it could have been. And in the world of automotive dreams, that moment of possibility is worth remembering.